Trump says this time he'll beat Biden. But 60% of voters don't want Trump to be president. The American people are ready to move on.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Incredibly significant development in the special counsel investigation. The New York Times reporting that Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, has testified before the grand jury that special counsel Jack Smith has been using in both of his investigations, both into January 6 and also into the possible mishandling of classified documents down at Mar-a-Lago.
I want to talk about Mark Meadows testifying to the grand jury. And it looks like even Secret Service agents.
To those who are listening tonight, if you believe Donald Trump is being treated poorly and wrongly, stand up and help the man. Pray for our country. Pray for him. Go to DonaldJTrump.com and give money so he can defend himself.
I think Lindsey Graham might have missed his calling as a televangelist because he's got the most important part down. God, in this case Donald Trump, needs more money, but you can send it to me and I'll make sure he gets it.
Now, in recent months, folks around former President Trump have expressed some concern, some puzzlement about exactly what was going on with Mark Meadows, because they told us that they didn't have any communication with his legal team. They were unclear what exactly was going on with him. They've even said on our air that there was no communication between Trump's legal team and Meadows' legal team, which raised a lot of questions about whether he was indeed cooperating with investigators.
America literally is at stake as we know it, is at stake as we know it. I'm sorry I'm so upset, but please help President Trump. If you can afford $5 or $10, if you can't afford $1 fine, just pray. Pray for this country, pray for this president, and if you got any money to give it. LindseyGraham.com. It doesn't go to me. It goes to helping this president.
I mean, I might invest it in some side projects, get a little Bitcoin.
Trump's in a lot of trouble. Nothing like this has ever happened before. The chief of staff of the White House of the United States is testifying against his own president because he's a crook and he's being forced to testify? Because they were all part of a criminal conspiracy.
Look outside the Capitol, you see the Supreme Court, and you see a statue of Lady Justice. She has a scale that's supposed to be equal, but she's wearing a blindfold. I wonder if there was a blindfold on to the prosecutor when it came to Hunter Biden.
Now, in terms of what he could offer in January 6th, the House investigation into January 6th basically concluded that all roads led to the former White House chief of staff. All the communication to the former president that day, including from his own family, went through Mark Meadows.
Skin crawls hearing Lindsey Graham ask for $5 or $10 for a self-proclaimed billionaire's legal fees. For less than the price of a cup of coffee a day, you can keep this man where he belongs, in the window seat of his own private plane and knee-deep in adult film stars.
Yeah, Donald Trump's gonna get in trouble for the documents. Whatever. They got a lot of guys on seditious conspiracy, including one that did a tweet from the Truman balcony. That's not on the regular White House tour.
So I don't care if they're Trump appointed. I don't care if they were part of his former administration. Those people that have known about these Biden crimes and sold our country out, they should be held accountable too.
Showed up in Manhattan Tuesday to scream into a bullhorn in her Unabomber glasses before fleeing with a police escort back to her Escalade like a Disney mascot whose fake head just fell off. Look away, kids. Goofy is fine. He's fine. He's just going to go to the hospital for a minute.
Now, in a statement Meadows' lawyers provided to the Times, they said, quote, without commenting on whether or not Mr. Meadows has testified before the grand jury or in any proceeding, Mr. Meadows has maintained a commitment to tell the truth for his illegal obligation to do so. Wolf?
That guy went to prison for seditious conspiracy after tweeting from the Truman balcony.
Mayor Adams described New York as, quote, his home. How did his home look? Pretty neat and tidy?
No, his home is disgusting. I compared it to what I called Gotham City. The streets are filthy. They're covered with people basically dying on drugs. They can't even stand up. They're falling over. There's so much crime in the city. I can't comprehend how people live there. It was repulsive. It smells bad. And I think it's a terrible place.
Okay, Bane's girlfriend. How dare you say that in the city that is home to Fox News headquarters? These people are such assholes.
Let's look at the role that Mark Meadows would have played in the Trump White House. As chief of staff, he would have had access or insight into political questions in the White House, but also substantive ones. And so look at the two different inquiries that are happening here. To the extent that he could provide insight as to January 6th, he could talk about what the president said, what the president knew. Did the president ever convey that he knew he lost the election? What did the president know was being packed up in boxes on the final days of the administration and being sent down to Mar-a-Lago? What did the president say about his right to declassify documents or that he knew was in his possession? There's plenty that can be asked of Mark Meadows, again, as both a substantive and political aide. He was clearly a critical witness.
Donald Trump's going down for the rest of his life. The idea that he'll ever serve a day in prison, I don't believe it. I think ultimately they'll put a damn ankle monitor on his leg and he'll get to live the rest of his fat-ass life out down in Mar-a-Lago, all the while bitching because Fox News will have a 24-hour camera on him.
But it seems like the GOP's strategy of whining about wokeness, voter fraud, and gender-neutral potato head dolls is just not exactly working, especially since their senators are starting to look a little bit like potato head dolls.
So much access because he was in the position that he was. He just had first-hand knowledge. I think the fact that he has testified now before the grand jury, and one of the big questions I have, Wolf, is there a circumstance where he would have been in a position to invoke his own Fifth Amendment right? I mean, I think one of the big questions is whether or not Mark Meadows faces any criminal liability in these broader investigations himself.
But he's done.
The scary thing for me is it's not just about the president going after President Trump. It's going after parents at school board meetings. If you're a pro-life Catholic, you're an extremist. If you're a journalist, for goodness sake, they went after Matt Taibbi.
Such a critical piece of evidence for investigators. We learned that on this recording, not only does the former president suggest that he is in possession of a classified document, but he also appears to acknowledge the limits on his ability to declassify documents once he left the White House. And those comments are significant because they really undermine a lot of the public defenses that Trump has put forward.
Now, we don't know what exactly was said. We're not supposed to. It's a secret. But the only person in the White House in more trouble than Donald Trump is Mark Meadows. The only way he's not spending the rest of his life in jail too is if he gives the goods up on Donald Trump.
I think back to sort of Mark Meadows' trajectory in this whole notion of investigations into Donald Trump. Remember when Mark Meadows was initially very cooperative with the House Select Committee looking into January 6th, and then he totally pulled back from that after he had shared a bunch of very helpful material to the committee.
This lunatic special prosecutor named Jack Smith, I wonder what it was prior to a change.
I'm sorry, what? What? Why do you think he changed his name? Are you suggesting something illicit, or are you genuinely curious about how to do it?
And I suspect that's what's happened here.
If you could change your name and dye your hair, you might be able to flee all your legal troubles and start a new life in a small village in South America where people only know you by your new identity, Mr. Lindsey Graham.
I thought the statement that Paula read from the Meadows team about when he's obligated to do so by law, he will have this commitment to the truth. Well, that suggests to me that perhaps he may have some very valuable information that he provided in this testimony, but we simply don't know.
Get ready for indictments. They're coming down. And the right wing's gonna freak out. They're gonna call it a witch hunt, and I'm sure his number's gonna go up.
I will tell you that there has been concern, and I'm sure Paula is hearing this as well, from some in the Trump orbit, that Mark Meadows is maybe making a deal or giving something in order to, or getting something in order to give something.
That motherfucker will never walk into the White House again.
Again, we don't know, but that is why, one of the many reasons why this testimony is so significant, because of the question marks and because of the jitters that it leaves in Trump world.
Mark my words.
I just learned a lot just now that, like, if I'm going to commit crime, I should do some crack first, right? Because then if I do the crack, then I could say I have a problem, and then they do this diversion thing. So always have crack with you when you're committing a crime.
For that matter, I figure at some point, they'll hang his portrait for the cameras. Then it will be immediately taken down and will never hang again. ever in the White House. Y'all take it easy. Wouldn't be surprised if they blow off the damn ceremony. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal.
Trumpism is a giant loser for the GOP. It's not working, people don't want it, and they keep making that clear in election after election after election, and yet Republicans won't give up. I have no idea what people like Marjorie Taylor Greene are thinking. I can't get inside her head, although if I could, I bet I would say it was
Repulsive, it smells bad, and I think it's...